It just makes me happy. It makes me happy for your hat. Yes, that looks pretty good. You said yes. Yes. I'm so happy right now. I'm sorry, buddy. Okay, you want to jump up so I can tell the story? You want to jump up so I can tell the story? No? What is happening, people? It is Brian Alsruhe, NEVERsate.com, and I'm just doing an intro for this. I'm actually going to go into the real video here in a second, but I recorded the real video probably about a month ago. Yeah. But a whole lot has happened in that time. And for those of you who do care, yes, I absolutely did find out one of the things that is going wrong with my body, so stay tuned for that. The first part of this video is actually a story about the test that they needed to do in order to find out what this was, which was uncomfortable. I go into like a whole disclaimer before I actually start telling the story, so if it is too graphic for you, I would encourage you to turn it off. But the reason why you guys talk to me now before you're talking to me in just 1 second is that, look, it's a really uncomfortable situation, and I deal with uncomfortable situations with humor, and I just want the last thing that anyone thinks that I am making fun of these doctors. I am not making fun of these doctors whatsoever. I am absolutely blown away by how smart they are and everything. I'm just making jokes because it is a very uncomfortable situation. That said, I have absolutely nothing but the utmost respect for these people. So guys, if I'm making little jokes, it is not making fun of them. It's literally just making fun of me and how silly this situation was. What is happening, people? It is Brian Alsruhe, NEVERsate.com. For today's video, I just want to sit down here and tell you guys a story about possibly the most elaborate prank ever played on me ever. Courtesy of my good friend Mark Bell of Super Training Gym. Now, unfortunately, before I get into this story, I just need to let you guys know that this is also going to be a medical update, and unfortunately, because of my medical condition where I vomit 30 to 50 times a day, things get kind of graphic at times. So this entire video is all about a doctor visit that I just recently went to. However, it involves butt stuff. Now, trust me, no stranger to butt stuff am I. I've had to have a couple colonoscopies due to all the stomach stuff. I've had more than a few doctors' fingers. I'm familiar with butt stuff. And this story just happens to be about one of those times. However, it was 100% unexpected. So although it is all medical butt stuff, it is still butt stuff. So if you have small children or that stuff kind of makes you a little bit weird, you're probably gonna want to change off this video. May I recommend? I have absolutely no idea what a good recommendation in place of butt stuff is. But if you do decide to stay around, I'm gonna say you're welcome right now because this one is a pretty epic story. So I'm not completely sure if any of you have been in a situation before where after the fact, after everything was over, it was so obvious that it was a trap, that it was a setup, completely obvious. However, when you were going through it, it seemed completely rational. And that pretty much sums up this story. So there I was. We had a really brief period at the Arnold where we didn't have stuff to do. So we got the chance to run over to Juju Pafu's booth and also Mark Bell's booth. Now, we only had a couple minutes at both their booths, right? I ran over to Mark Bell, just say hi, whatever. We literally spoke for probably like 2 to 3 minutes just about life, and he asked me how my health was. We talked briefly. He gave his condolences about it. We took a picture. We headed back out. We needed some strongman stuff to do. Now, strangely enough, just a couple hours later, I had a little mini seizure, which caused my wife and myself to have to leave the Arnold, and she had to drive me all the way home. But then on the way home around midnight, I get a text from Mark Bell just talking about the symptoms that I'm having. He's doing research. Obviously, the dude's doing research right now. And if you guys know anything about Mark Bell, he is absolutely well connected. The dude knows everybody, right? So he's literally trying to get me in contact with some of the best medical minds in the world, possibly to get some ideas of what's going on with my condition. Now, when I say he was asking questions, I'm talking about this dude was actually doing research. It was so obvious. He was sitting there on a computer or on his phone or whatever, asking the correct questions, or he was in contact with another doctor who was asking questions. He was relaying it all. Now, this went on to about 2 in the morning until they kind of stopped. And then the next day I got more texts from Mark, and then the next day I got more texts from Mark, until eventually I got a text that was basically a group text between him, myself, and another doctor. And he said, Brian, meet ex-doctor. I would like to explain to you what conditions are going on, all that. She's going to be able to help you out. So this doctor, who is obviously much smarter than Mark or I, is throwing around all kinds of ideas of possibly what this could be, but the main diagnosis is that I probably have either parasites or a worm, which actually makes a lot of sense because I've spent a lot of time virtually everywhere drinking a lot of water that I shouldn't be drinking, because I'm smart. But this doctor that Mark got me in contact with said that I need to go see the specialist in New York City as soon as I possibly can. Now, apparently this is not a doctor that you get to really see. It's a doctor that, like, if he chooses to see you, you get to see him. He's got like 60 years in practice. He's 150 years old. He's basically a mythical character. So hope against hope, I call his office, expecting it to take 2 to 3 weeks to get in, and the receptionist says, can you come on the 11th? I say yes, absolutely, because I thought it was like the 3rd, but it was like the 9th. So now I had virtually 2 days to figure out how to drive into one of the biggest cities in the world to find some mythical doctor to go do some tests I know nothing about. Now, before I go any further, let me just say that I do not do well with crowds. I do not do well with traffic. It just isn't my thing. The idea of driving into the middle of New York City on like 5th Avenue is the worst idea I've ever had in my life. I would try to avoid that like the plague. So when I found out that I had 2 days to figure all this out, get a hotel, do it all, I got very, very overwhelmed. Got a little bit on my plate already. But luckily, my sweet wife and father-in-law planned the entire trip. I literally didn't have to do anything. I had to get in a car, ride for a bunch of hours, get out, do whatever I needed to do, get back in the car, and ride back. Thank you, guys. But there we were. My wife and I were headed into New York City on Sunday afternoon, and actually it was not bad at all. New York City, I gave you a bad rap. I've had some bad experiences in the past. I'm gonna take all those back and tell you that I welcome you with open arms because I had an amazing time for the few hours that I spent there. But Sunday night was really cool. Now, Monday morning came early, and apparently my doctor's appointment was at 7:30 a.m. Now, that seemed like a strange time to me, so much so that I was really doubting if I heard it correctly. However, I heard nothing back from the doctor, could not get in contact with them. It all just seemed very, very strange. 7:30 seems early. But earlier than that, it was about a 20-minute walk to the doctor's appointment from the hotel, and it was awesome, man. We got to walk past like Central Park, all kinds of cool things. Man, I really enjoyed my time there. It took us a little bit to find a doctor's office, and the place looked closed. Obviously, it was 7:30 in the morning. We rung a bell, which is different for me. We don't have bells where I live. But to my amazement, we get buzzed in, and this sweet little lady asked us to sit down and start filling out the paperwork. Now, I'm completely relieved that my wife and I took off from our house, got a road trip. We're actually where we're supposed to be in the time that we're supposed to be there. I am astounded. I'm filling out my medical paperwork when a back door opens, and this cute little old man walks to the door with the bushiest white eyebrows you've ever seen. Are you the patient? Indeed I am. Come with me. Now, something I didn't mention is that this doctor's office looked like a museum of old crazy stuff. Really cool crazy stuff. It's still crazy stuff. Like ancient arrowheads and legit like African tribal sculptures and things. This guy leads me back to one of his offices, sits us down, and starts talking in a very calm, kind of mumbling voice. Now, my wife and I travel with all my medical records, which is a packet about this thick. And we are proud of ourselves for being so prepared. We hand it over to the old man, and the old man goes, "Is there anything in here that I really need to know?" Well, yeah, I would think, yeah, maybe. The little old man pushes it aside, says, "Let me tell you what we're gonna do here. We're gonna sit here and you're gonna listen to me tell stories about books that I've written." Now, I'm not trying to downplay this visit. I can honestly say this was the most cared about and most, I don't know, he definitely was doing things without me realizing that he was doing things. It was seriously some of the best medical care I've ever received, but weird. Behind this dude, like all back here, is a literal wallpaper of diplomas. And surrounding us is like 30 books that the dude's written, which he's calmly asking me to take off, hand to him so he can read some little thing, hand it to me to read, and then he kind of mumbles about some other stuff that might be possibly going on. All well and good. I understand you're a specialist. I don't know what I'm doing. I did drive a long way though, and I'd really like to get to my, why do I throw up a lot? In all of this reading of books and mumbling, he kind of sneaks in. He's like, yeah, so a typical stool test is only this effect, blah, 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 blah. So I'm not gonna hurt you at all. I'm gonna have to insert my fingers into your anus and then a plastic tube so I can take a look. But really, what you wanna do is read this thing. Just kind of breezed over that whole insert fingers and plastic tubes up my butt. Now again, I am no stranger to this butt stuff and I have to deal with this because of doctor things. However, I was not expecting this at all. I was not emotionally prepared for what was just told to me. Now, what came out of me was, stone face. I'm not giving up anything. But in reality, what's really going on is a ton of cold sweat running down my back and my mind just spinning. So much cold sweat to the effect that my wife put her hand on my back and went, ugh. So at 7:30 a.m. in a foreign city, this little old man looked at me and said, "You ready to go to the examination room?" What? No, I know it was stressful. It was so stressful. No, lay down. Oh. You're like the doctor. We're so forceful. So before I know it, I'm in an examination room with a door that doesn't even close, and he just throws a robe on the bed and says, "Put that on, strip from the waist down." I'd like to tell you that Andy fought the good fight that day. But in an unreasonably short amount of time, he burst back through the door. Like so short, I did not even have the robe all the way on. I got knock knock, walk through the door, and literally I'm half out. And I'm like, "What's up, man? How we doing?" That dude looks at me with some bedroom eyes and says, "Lay down on the table." So I do, and he starts feeling around in my stomach just to make sure nothing's weird there. And then he says, "Go ahead and roll on your side." Now, for those of you gentlemen who are not familiar with this butt stuff game that these medical professionals like to play, when you have no pantalones and they tell you to roll on your side, nothing good's about to happen. Which brings me to a side story that is too funny not to tell. So my very first colonoscopy, they told me that they were gonna put me in twilight. For those of you who do not know what twilight means, that means most people fall asleep, but it kind of sticks you in a very sleepy, dreary state. Unless you have a massive sleeping problem, where you take 3 prescription sleeping pills multiple over-the-counter sleeping pills and you take like Tylenol PM and melatonin like candy every single night just to get a couple hours of sleep. And let's just say you explain that to the doctors and the doctor said, no, this is different. You'll be fine. And even though you might protest, they are not having any of it. So there you are, I'm getting ready to have this colonoscopy, and if you've ever had one, that place is like a revolving door, man. They're just pushing people in, pushing people out. They must run through like 100 of those a day, which really makes me wonder about the cleanliness of their equipment. But there we were with them sticking the IV in my arm with the Twilight in it, and I felt completely fine, like ready to write poetry and do like trigonometry kind of fine. Can't do trigonometry normally. So I say to the nurse, can we kind of like back this up a couple minutes till this stuff starts taking effect? Unfortunately not, big boy, you're going in. Sure enough, I get rolled to an operating room where the doctor seems surprised to see me awake, and he's like, hi, and introduces himself like it's a normal Tuesday. Being petrified, I say, hey, what's up, doc? I feel completely fine. He says, no, you don't. Yeah, I do. No, you don't. Yeah, I do. At which time the doctor goes over and proceeds to stick some lube on his fingers. Now, I know what's coming next. Because again, I'm on my side with zero pantalones. The doctor walks up while explaining the procedure and calmly goes, back there. Now, the normal response that I had was to smack his hand and say, I'm not ready for this. Which I did. I full swamped at air. Because the doctor was already 3 steps away, and at that point, I knew they got me. Anyway, that was kind of neat because I actually got to stay awake and look on the monitor while he was going around and cutting off polyps and cauterizing me. I couldn't feel it. It was an interesting experience. This one was much different. So again, there I am on my side, no pantalones, and the doctor says, look, this is what I'm gonna have to do. I'm gonna have to insert my finger to dilate you, and then I'm gonna have to stick up this plastic tube to take a look. Which, no lie, at the moment reminded me of the joke from Tommy Boy. So while he's explaining what he's about to do, he's saying, but you can't move. I'm not gonna hurt you, but you can't move. Trust me, no matter what happens, you can't move. No matter what you feel, don't move. Fellas, or anyone for that matter, when somebody's about ready to do something to you, and they tell you 3 times to not move, nothing good's about to happen. But there we were. And before I really knew what happened, I felt some pressure and there was a lot of stuff going on back there. And yeah, for sure there was a finger. However, I don't know why he had to like Helen Keller his way in. And then he explains that there's about to be a small plastic object. Now the finger did not feel small, so I'm hoping that the plastic thing is smaller. It wasn't. However, again, luckily I am on my side, turned away, still zero pantalones. So next thing I know, the plastic thing is inserted, and yeah, I couldn't tell you how much time it took, but it was longer than I wanted, and all that I could uncomfortably say during that long silence was, this is very tough to relax. I guess you say weird things and stuff's up here. Before I knew it, he was out of there and he went back in his little mumbling thing saying like, well, yeah, about 10 inches, blah, blah, blah. 10 inches? Bro, this is exactly what the doctor saw. What? At which time, yeah, he showed me, he's like, yes, this was like 10 inches up. You can't feel it. You only have feeling for the first little bit and then you can't tell. Well, my first thought, every single one of you knows what my first thought was. It's the same exact first thought that you would have had. And the second thought was, Mark Bell. And then it hit me. This entire thing was a massive, elaborate plot set up by Mark Bell, that adorable little doctor who was an actor with huge bushy eyebrows in a medical office that opened at 7:30 in the morning that didn't have any medical things at all. When I tried to hand him my medical records, he's like, yeah, that's cute. Let me tell you this elaborate story before I stick things up your butt. I had no idea who this guy was. I didn't know the doctor that referred him. Those were all friends of Mark Bell's. I didn't know any of these people at all. And I blindly went for it. Well played, sir. But no, people, in fact, it was not any type of ruse or anything like that. It was a legit doctor's appointment that Mark Bell did not need to set up, did not need to make those phone calls, didn't need to do any of this for me. He did. I followed through. The doctor seems like there could be something promising. I get to call them in exactly 2 hours to find out if anything came out of that test. However, if that was the test, I can't imagine the treatment being much fun. But either way, we either have some more answers or we'll know one more thing that is not. I just want to take a second to thank Mark Bell. Now, I am going to come back and update the rest of this video once I talk to those doctors and see if they found out anything. Part of me hopes they did, so that test isn't for nothing. And then, of course, part of me hopes that they don't, because that would mean some pretty crazy things for my next little bit, I think. Yeah, I'll see you in a couple hours. All right, so if my memory serves me correctly, you guys should be at a point where I was just getting ready to call the doctor on the phone and get the results, correct? I hope so. Probably should have checked that before I started recording this. Anyway, whenever I did end up getting all those doctors, they let me know that they think there is a couple different things wrong with me. Number one, they truly believe that I have some pretty serious traumatic brain injury, which makes complete sense given my past. They're also betting that I have this certain type of Lyme disease that I need to get some testing for currently. But the main things that they know for sure are wrong with me, and what that terrible, terrible butt test actually proved, was that I do have 2 parasites. Those are worms, people. I got worms. The very first one's called Giardia, and it looks like this. Yeah, those type of friends I have. Get disease, they give you stuffed animals. So most of you out there have probably heard of Giardia. If you guys have watched any survival shows at all on TV, you know when the contestants drink water they're not supposed to, get really, really sick, and end up in the hospital? That's because of this little guy. I just had it for like 2 years. So it's like really bad food poisoning that can kill you if you do not do something about it for years, apparently. But luckily, that wasn't even the bad one. The bad one is called Schistosomiasis, and it actually kills 280,000 people in Africa alone every year. Now, I know all of you have heard of malaria. Malaria has killed more people than all of the wars combined. Yeah, all of that. Malaria has killed more people than that. In second place is this guy. So yeah, it's really, really good that we found out about it. Now, there's absolutely no way to tell where I got it. I have been so many places in my life, to a lot of very dirty places, doing a lot of very dirty things in a lot of very dirty water. And apparently I was at the wrong place at the wrong time, because how schistosomiasis works, it does not have to do with drinking water. What happens is they get into some sort of dirty water. The actual schistosomiasis thing, whatever it is, shell, has to find a host of a snail. Once it finds a host of a snail, kind of takes it over so that it can grow. Then it leaves the snail, kind of chills out in the water until it finds the host of a human, like me. Now, apparently from what I've read, it can actually swim through your blood vessels, it gets into you, and now you have worms. And these types of worms take some very, very expensive pills to kill, upwards to the price of about $4,000 each. Which is exactly why it is such a travesty that so many hundreds of thousands of people are dying every year. So I'm currently on day 8 of my first deworming process. So yeah, just like your dog, I have to get dewormed. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, this has not been the most pleasant experience by any means. However, if it makes me better, that is a plus. The interesting part of all this is, in reality, we don't know how long I've had it. Most likely, it has been for years, like 8 to 10 years, which actually ends up explaining a lot of the medical problems I've had over the past decade. Because apparently these worms work in life cycles, so whenever they wake back up and start attacking an organ, I've had problems, and then they kind of go back to sleep and don't bother me for a little bit. However, this time, they are attacking my brain, which is why I'm having seizures, it's why I'm seeing hallucinations, it's why there are a lot of problems going on there. So it is very, very important that we get a hold of it and get rid of them now. So they're hoping they're just gonna be able to treat this with nothing more than just pills. Now, they don't know how many rounds of pills it might take because of how long I've had them and how deep-seated they could be potentially in my system, so time will tell. But the good news is that most likely I am on the mend. Now, that mend could potentially take months to years until my body actually heals all the damage that the worms have done. However, once that is there, I should be a regular human being. Which is absolutely astounding when you consider that none of you have seen me at 100% yet. So the idea of what I'm actually gonna be capable of at 100%, I've never done strongman at 100%, so things could get interesting. But again, it's all gonna depend on how well my body adapts to this medication and whether I can get rid of these worms and there isn't too much damage, so time is still gonna tell. However, when your mindset switches from, well, you're probably looking at about 6 months to a year before you kind of get so bad that you're not able to do any of this anymore, to potentially taking a couple pills and being better, yeah, that was some good news. So now we're simply in a waiting pattern to see how it goes, but we are treating for that. Hopefully I'm gonna be able to get some grant money so that I'm able to get tested for some things that are also going on in my body, where I'll be able to get some treatments that I'm not currently able to get under my insurance. But the really cool thing is that potentially I could be moving forward for the first time in the better part of a decade. So yeah, I could talk about this for a very long time. However, I truly feel like I have a new lease on life that I'm actually gonna get a true shot at. So man, I can't tell you how excited I am. I'm so thankful for all you who have stayed with me throughout this entire thing. I know I always get type of comments where people are like, oh, Brian hurts himself all the time, or Brian this, Brian that. Guys, I am sorry. I'm sorry that I'm not as big as I used to be. I'm not as strong as I used to be, but it's because I've literally been fighting against something that kills 280,000 people in Africa alone a year. So to be completely honest, not being able to get PRs in the last 6 months to a year, doesn't seem like such a big deal anymore. So for all of those who are asking if I'm ever gonna be as strong as I used to be or as big as I used to be, number one, yes. Number two, you really need to work on your social skills. It's like asking a cancer patient if their hair's ever gonna grow back. Yeah, man, if I don't die, thanks for asking. But yes, guys, hopefully I'll be back killing it in absolutely no time. I don't know what that's gonna look like. I don't know how much damage is inside of me. All that I can say is I am super pumped to be on the offense, moving forward again. Man, my mindset is so unbreakable right now. I feel so good. So I just thank all of you for hanging with me and just being so supportive for so much time. And so many people have been wondering what this is. We've all been wondering what this is. I actually got tested for worms literally more than one time in the past. And it just turns out that the tests that we have here in America that are covered by medical insurance really aren't very good at finding these types of things. In reality, they are 95% not accurate. So if possible, try to get to a better doctor if you have something that you absolutely can't solve that is like this, because you would be shocked at what parasites and worms can actually do to your body. But I can tell you they can wreak all kinds of havoc. Havoc! Anyway, guys, I hope that fills some of you in. Like I said, guys, if you guys laughed with me at the story from before, I was not trying to make fun of those doctors. I love those doctors. Those doctors are the only reason why I'm going to be alive. I cannot give enough thanks. I was just telling a funny story. I didn't mean to insult anybody. Hopefully you guys saw it for what it was. Hopefully you guys laughed at my pain and much discomfort, but yeah, just good news all around. Bad news is I need to go back to New York next week where I have to get that same test done again. But it's better than being dead. All right, guys, that is all that I got for you today. I hope that you guys enjoyed my story. I hope that you guys are still with me. Thank you guys so much for all your support, everything you guys done. Thank you guys if you are new to the channel. If you guys have subscribed recently, thank you so much for that. Thanks for sharing this with your friends. Thank you guys for all your well wishes, your prayers, your good thoughts, whatever you guys believe in. I know so many of you were throwing good things my way, and I absolutely felt it. So, guys, I don't know how much longer this recovery is going to be, but we are definitely on the right track. So, man, I just thank you guys. I thank the doctors. I thank my family. I thank my wife. I thank my gym members. I thank everyone. Everyone, thank you. I will catch up with you guys later in the week. Until I do, go out to something amazing in your lives, people. Keep working hard. Go out to something amazing in your lives. Keep working hard. Be nice to each other, people. Check yourself for worms. I'll see you then.